about car production, because this is the week in which Ford have announced plans to expand their engine production plant at Bridgend, which is going to create many more jobs. But of course, Ford don't need to make news, they make cars that sell. The top three best-selling cars in Britain, the Escort, the Sierra and the Fiesta, are all Ford, so perhaps this year they're just basking in a bit of reflected glory. But they have come up with something a bit different with this new Orion. It's the same outside, it's when you open the door that you can see and smell the difference, because it's got a leather and wood interior, courtesy of Aston Martin Pickford, so of course Ford now owns. This is the Orion 1600E, which is a numbering series that harks back to the good old days of the Cortina, which was a nice little motor and real boy racer stuff. But you need to be a boy racer with a bit of cash for this one, because it markets at £12,500. So for that price, I can't really see anyone putting the black vinyl roof on it. Also on the Ford stand this year are concept cars, the cars of the future. Particularly impressive is the aerodynamically sound Probe. Ford make very successful cars of the present.